All right, being able to play a good dink is a really important skill in pickleball. When your opponents are at the net being all scary looking to pounce, you want to give them something that they can't really attack very easily, and that's where a dink comes in. Keeping that ball low and slow, forcing your opponents to hit up, it serves a lot of the same purposes as a drop. It limits your opponent's ability to cause trouble for you, especially when they use speed. But while it's great to be able to play that dink, it's also really nice to be able to surprise your opponent with a fastball, to catch them sleeping. Let's take a look at some of the things we need to do to be great at disguising our flick.
Okay, so we all know how important a dink is. Keep that ball low to the ground, low to the net, force your opponents to hit up. But isn't it nice when every once in a while you can just speed things up? We see Catherine Parenteau right here. Great examples of using speed. Here's Matt Wright on the backhand side. Nicely done. So let's think a little bit about some of the technical elements related to dinking and flicking and find out where we can find some commonalities and where we can find some distances. Did I say distances? I meant differences. All right, here we go, taking a look at a self-fed forehand dink followed by a self-fed forehand flick. So notice how many things are similar here. This is on the backhand as well. How I set up my feet, how I set up my body, how I set up my paddle. Heck, even how I hold my paddle, the grip I use should be constant throughout. So as we take a look here, we've got an open stance. My feet are facing forward toward the net. I've laid back my wrist. This is important here. The laid back wrist is a crucial element to both the dink and the flick. And I make contact out front. Again, here we see this is the flick about to come. The setup looks almost identical. What's the difference? Well, there's just that little acceleration at the last second going forward. Everything else stays the same. Let's take a look at the backhand here. Most people find this a little bit harder to do on the backhand, tougher to generate speed. Again, we see the same open stance setup. We see the same laid back wrist, the same continental grip. The change here is this little acceleration. You can see the paddle face starting to change so that the ball stays a bit lower. And then that forward acceleration. Let's take a look at these side by side. And again, you should see that it's very hard to tell before the ball is struck which ball is coming. Here's another angle we can look at. Again, what I'm trying to do here is make the disguise as similar as possible between these two shots. It's generally a good idea to set up as though you're dinking the ball and then surprise them with the speed up. If you look like you're going to hit fast and instead hit slow, well, that's actually, it might surprise them, but that's usually a nice surprise that you give them. So it's typically a good idea to set up as though you're playing the slow ball, as though you're going to dink it, and then at the last second, add that little bit of speed. Here it is from the side view. Again, everything happening out front between my body and the net. We want that identical setup. Look at that, it's pretty similar on both sides, that's good. The wrist, the body, the feet, the grip, the paddle face all staying the same until the very last moment. As we go forward, you'll see a little bit of a wrist lag, which is needed to get that acceleration, almost like you're throwing the paddle forward toward the ball, but just using your hand. It's almost like, if you ever whipped a towel at someone, that's the kind of feeling we want here. We can't afford a great big backswing because that will give away what it is that we're trying to do. I'm just giving you a few more angles. This is something you can practice on your own, kind of like I am right here. You could use a wall so the ball always comes back to you. You could get a partner, and you could do it with your partner and see if they can guess what it is that's going to come. The important thing is that you try to make it as similar as possible. I even recommend getting out your own camera and taking a look at yourself and see, can you guess what's going to come before it comes?
Okay, so there you go. That is the key to having a well-disguised flick, is you've got to set up just like you're going to play a dink. The way you set up your body and your paddle, the way you hold on to the handle, the way your shoulders are, even how far back, especially how far back you pull the paddle before you hit. All these things are going to give cues to your opponent if you're about to flick it. So you want to keep those as constant as possible, make it look like you're going to play a dink, and then surprise them with some speed.